I want to go back to that game, and Dan, I don't know if it sounds bad, but honestly, I didn't watch a ton of you guys' first game.
Sure.
I was flipping back and forth between that. I expected Auburn, Kentucky to be a much better game than it was, and unfortunately, we didn't see that. But you guys take care of business. Again, a very interesting game, 51-35. It kind of felt like one of those old school Steve Spurrier games. But in the end, Gators get the win, 51-35. I want to get your initial gauge on it because obviously offensively, fantastic day. Kyle Trask went 30 for 42 for 416, 6 touchdowns. Kyle Pitts looked as good as advertised, maybe better, 8 for 170, 4 touchdowns. But Ole Miss offensively as well, Matt Corral, 22 for 31, 395, 3 TDs. They had Elijah Moore, had 10 catches for 227, which he's a freaking beast. But talk about that first game overall, how Florida's feeling. You guys are now third in the AP poll, and again, obviously battling for the SEC East title, which we all know is going to come down to Florida and Georgia most likely. But just talk about how Florida fans are feeling after that Week 1 win in Oxford.
Yeah, no, and I'll answer your question here in a second. First off, thanks so much again for inviting me on. What's funny about Elijah Moore going for 226 yards is that no Florida school wanted him, so he ended up at Ole Miss. Surprise!
That's how it always seems to work, you know.
Yeah, especially against Florida. You had the Kentucky running back, the Vanderbilt running back, but at the end of the day, Florida looked really strong on offense, right? They punted the ball one time, looked as good, if not better than advertised. Florida has a ton of weapons. Kyle Trask, seemingly could put up great numbers this year, put him in the Heisman race potentially. Florida's got a good stable of running backs. They got a lot of good depth there. They've got 3 very different types of running backs. They've got Kyle Pitts, obviously an incredible tight end. Depth behind him is a little lacking. And then wide receiver, a lot of potential talent, still some folks that need to be proven. Trayvon Grimes, everybody's kind of expecting that next game out of him to be his breakout game. He hasn't quite had it yet. Jacob Copeland, Kadarius Toney finally really broke out of his shell. At the end of the day, what Florida's going to do on offense is they're going to distribute the ball to a lot of people. Florida had 11 players catch a ball against Ole Miss. They had a stable of running backs that I think the most that any running back got was 9 carries. So you're going to see a lot of rotation on offense. Offensive line looked pretty solid from the center over to the left guard and the left tackle. The right side is okay. They got a graduate transfer, Stuart Reese from Mississippi State, who's finally coming back into the offense. He played with Dan Mullen and John Hevesy at Mississippi State when he was there. Our right tackle is probably the biggest area of concern that we have on the offensive line. But to answer your question, Chris, Florida just didn't look itself on defense, and Dan Mullen said after the game it's because they were only able to have 2 practices where they had live tackling and everything else. But, safeties were a big concern. Linebackers were big concerns. Florida has 2, all SEC guys that were named at cornerbacks, and they let up, I think, 190 yards combined. So the defense just didn't look strong. Do I expect it to get better? Yes. Do I think that Lane Kiffin is probably a better play caller than Mike Bobo and Dan Mullen? Yes. However, if Florida continues to do that, it's going to be a really rough season because Ole Miss's defense is nowhere near as good as we know that Will Muschamp and T-Rob can bring to the table. So Florida's got to improve on the defensive side of the ball because they're not going to be able to just sling it around the way they did against Ole Miss.